Well, good afternoon, our active imagination listeners. We have a little something different for you today. We're joined by Samantha, she goes by Sam, who's a graduate student, and we're going to talk about active imagination and neurodivergence. She's going to share with her experience with being neurodivergent, and we'll see how this conversation goes. Welcome, Sam, to our little discussion.
Thank you, Rodney. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So, uh, tell us a little bit about your experiences with the neurodivergent and how that shapes your worldview.
Well, growing up, I did not know I was neurodivergent. As is common for a lot of females, I didn't find out until I was in my early 30s. After my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, I found out I too have ADHD. And what I didn't realize is that I have been using active imagination as a healthy coping mechanism for years. I remember being a child and daydreaming or zoning out, as it's called, and it would be my way of fighting boredom. Like if I'm bored in a classroom, K through 12 was pretty boring when I was sitting in math class. So I would daydream, and that was always on my report card that I daydreamed. And I was just thinking of other fun things that I could do. I was thinking about, you know, um, maybe even just creating a world where I was having fun outside or daydreaming about what I could be doing outside with my friends. I used that to kind of control my environment, but I don't do that as much now as an adult. As an adult, I find myself using it to go to sleep. My
Mm,
brain is so busy, and you take medication during the day and that helps you focus, but when you go to
mm,
bed, your anxiety is going, whatever it is going on in your head. And the only way I have found to calm myself down is say I have this for happening. I've been excited about this happening. So in my head, I will play out different scenarios of how this could go. It could go well, it could go bad, but either way, it's how I'm coping with the anxiety for the pending event and also preparing myself for if the event goes bad.
mm. And so, tell us a little bit more about when you said um, when you were younger, you're using active imagination to kind of get you through the day. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, say I was at home and my parents were arguing about something. I
Mm,
could go in my room. I wouldn't have toys or anything in my room, but I could just create this whole world that I was in, that there wasn't screaming parents on the other side of the door, that I wasn't stressed out because of the screaming, but I was actually in a happy family and we were sitting down to dinner and we were talking about our day. Like I could completely use that and create a whole other world where this traumatic event that was occurring didn't affect me. It didn't create that trauma wound because I just blocked it out and created my own world.
mm. And so, at what age did you find out that you were neurodivergent?
I believe I was 34 when I received
Okay,
a diagnosis
okay.
of ADHD. I'm
Mhm.
38 now. I received my diagnosis for autism right before my 38th birthday. So
Okay,
just this
okay,
year. Um, but I also have OCD, and that was diagnosed around the same time as ADHD.
okay. And so you went all these many years not really knowing what did you think perhaps or your parents or those that are around you thought perhaps might be going on.
I was flighty. I was lazy. I was
Mm,
unfocused,
mm,
attention seeking. There was a lot of negative terms that were used for
mm,
my personality.
mm.
And it's hurtful, growing
Sure.
up. And
Mhm.
A lot of people look at finding their diagnosis as kind of like a relief. When you finally
Mm,
get that diagnosis, it's like, now I have answers. Now I
mm,
know why my brain works this way, why I
mm,
didn't fit in with everybody else. A key moment for me when I think about my childhood and when I really knew I was different than everybody else, I was in middle school, and girls like to talk about each other, right? This was my friend group. My one friend was talking about the other friend behind her back, and the other friend was talking about that friend behind their back. And I just got them together and said, "Hey, can we just talk about this together and we can work on a solution and move forward so nobody's talking behind anyone's back?"
mm,
I was pushed out of that friend group because
mm,
that was not normal.
mm,
That was an acceptable behavior in a middle school friend group for girls.
mm, mm. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, yeah. Steiner, David,
Well, I
thoughts,
have a question.
questions?
You were talking before about how when you go to sleep, you're thinking about things like rehearsing for a future event or wondering what might go wrong. Or so what kind of what procedure do you use for yourself? That's so you said it was similar to active imagination. What do you actually do? What's your process that you use to kind of get away from that and relax and go to sleep?
So running through the scenarios is what helps me go to sleep because it calmed my anxiety. For example, recently I had to go see a hand surgeon for an injury that I sustained last December. This surgeon, worst case scenario, would have to take a tendon or ligament from in my arm, my forearm, and replace the one that was torn. It's, 6 to 8 weeks in a cast. It's a lot of physical therapy. It's a major surgery. That's worst case scenario. So, what I would do to prepare for this appointment and calm my anxiety is multiple nights in a row, I would do this because the anxiety is so profound of the unknown. And so at night, I'm running the scenario. Okay, if this happens, if he tells me that he has to do this surgery, and that means I can't write the pages of papers that I have to do, right, for the end of my term. That means it's harder for me to do my housework, take care of my dogs, my kids, participate in things like that. So I run through, what can I do now? How can I prepare to make that easier on my family, make that easier on me? So the first thing I decided to do, I completed all of my last 2 weeks of my schoolwork. I email my professors. I let them know I will be submitting things early because there's the potential of me having surgery. So it helps me plan having the active imagination. And I actually visualize doing all of these things in my active imagination. I visualize the doctor's appointments, the conversations I would have with him. I visualize how I would handle this with school. I visualize how I would handle it within my family. And it really helps calm me down because once I've figured out the worst case scenario, everything else is better.
That's
Well,
cool.
I
So
think it's
the
interesting.
imagination part is your imaginations give you solutions to all these problems.
Mm,
Somehow spontaneously you see yourself with a new idea. Okay, I'm gonna email a professor. I'm gonna talk to my family. These things are kind of popping up from your imagination almost spontaneously, and that's your inner creativity is giving you the answers, and then you can see them and do them, and then once you can imagine them, then it becomes pretty easy to actually do them.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I was going to say, I think it's interesting that you've used active imagination as a tool. So not only have you used it to soothe you, to help you to sleep, but it's also been used as a tool to keep you focused, organized. And so that's the first I've heard of someone talking about, using active imagination in order to uh, keep them organized and focused and kind of get them through the day. So that's definitely very interesting. Stein, any thoughts?
Yes, yes, thoughts. I am thinking, and you might have said it already, Samantha. what is it that makes you're neurodivergent? Probably, I think you probably explained it, but somebody's listening. Could you just go over what is it that makes you neurodivergent?
Well, for me, I have, so I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was diagnosed with autism and OCD, which sometimes some people say is not neurodivergence, but neurodivergence is just you doing things differently, your brain working differently. Um, I honestly, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't look at myself as different than the other person because I don't know what makes a neurotypical person, right?
Mhm, mhm,
My children are neurodivergent. My husband isn't, but okay, so here's something that I can tell you is vastly different than my husband and myself.
mhm,
Have an internal narrator. There's always my voice inside my head telling me other things that I have to do, trying to pull my focus over here, pull my focus over there. Um, Sometimes I think that that's what pulls me into an active imagination or a dreaming or
mhm.
daydreaming situation. But for me, that's what makes me feel like I am neurodivergent. That
Has
there is
anybody ever told you that we all have a voice in our heads also? I mean, it's that.
Well, I thought that, and my husband tells me he doesn't. So for me, I'm like, okay, all right, if you don't have that, how many other people don't?
Well, he could
Mhm,
probably his inner voice is probably unconscious, in other words, he could create that skill by purposely thinking about something. And I mean, and we I've been talking about this, to people over the years about like saying visualizing or using mental imagery or sometimes if you say see it, that becomes very difficult because for a lot of people it's not really seeing something, but imagining it or thinking about it. I'm sure your husband has some way of imagining or thinking about something. So if you say to him, oh, think about a car, he'll say, okay, I'm thinking about a car. And then you can say, what is it? Is it a Ford or is it a Toyota? He'll probably tell you the model of the car. So in some sense, he's imagining it or seeing it, or he's talking about it. He's got some way of doing it, even though for him it's a little fuzzier. For you, maybe it's crystal clear all the time. But could it be that he has it, but for him it's vague or fuzzy? He just hasn't paid attention to it really.
Yeah, it could be. He's a very logical thought guy. Like he's a mechanical engineer. So he's very analytical, very logic driven. He writes everything down. Everything is drawn out. Um, But like, I don't know, for me, I also have dyslexia. I was diagnosed with that as a kid. I was in speech therapy in school. They wanted to actually, they wanted to move me up a grade, but yet they also wanted me to go to speech therapy because I wasn't reading as quickly as they thought I should. So it was kind of
mhm,
And now you
interesting.
can read faster than everybody by listening and doing something else at the same time.
Yeah, now the audiobooks, I will sit and listen to the audiobook as fast as it will let me while I'm, cleaning or typing a paper.
Would you say, do you look at yourself as if something is quote, quote, wrong, or are you just different?
I don't think that anything with how I think is wrong. No. I look at myself, honestly, the things that would be considered different, I love those things about me.
Oh,
I,
yes.
yeah, I would feel like if I didn't have my out of the box thinking, I wouldn't be able to I ran a store. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I've done in my life. I can
Mhm,
master a task quicker than my husband can. You give us the
mhm.
same directions, and I will be able to do that without flaw within a day, and it might take him 5.
Right.
And that's nothing against him. It's just that I'm I'm able I'm able to do that For me, I do look at my neurodivergency as a superpower. Don't get me
A sort
wrong.
of creative intelligence.
Yeah,
Well,
Mhm.
you're kind of a divergent neurodivergent. In other words, you've got the ADHD, the autism, the OCD. You got dyslexia. You got several different so-called diagnoses. So each one of those is really a superpower. But the fact that you got four or five of them, you put that all together, you have a lot of choices of how to relate to the world and how to learn and how to do and how to some more so than maybe other people who lack some of those different kind of abilities. I mean,
yeah.
instead of calling them mental disorders, we could call them mental abilities.
And I just did a training that Dr. Gabor Mate put on, and he says that ADHD is an adaptation. It's your brain's way of adapting to the environment that you were raised in. And I can see that in very many ways because I am able to adapt. I've always called myself a chameleon. You can put me in any situation and I can adapt to that situation. I can, um, at times, I have even picked up on other people's accents and I don't realize I'm doing it until it's pointed out to me. Like, I live very close to Canada, and Canadians would come into my store and shop and I would start talking like them if we were having a conversation.
I like to hear
Um,
you talk like Stein.
I don't know. I would have to be around Stein a lot longer.
But I think David is playing with the fact that I went to two Canadian universities. So he's probably teasing me on that. But
I think your voice is more Caribbean, right? It's more.
yeah, yeah, well. I mean, certainly this is at the heart of you know what I'm interested in? I earnestly believe that all of the things that you've been diagnosed with are resources. Is that a fair statement to make tremendous resources to you, things that you can use to your advantage?
Definitely, because if you look at ADHD, even autism, you're able to hyper focus. If I wasn't able to hyper focus, I wouldn't have been able to complete Capella's bachelor's program in psychology. I took their flex path way, and that is you can complete as many courses as you can, as quickly as you can, two at a time. I completed 26 courses in 5 months. And that is because I love research. I can sit and research something. I can write out a paper very quickly, but if you give me an exam, there's a chance that I'm probably going to get a B on the exam, but I would get an A on the paper.
You have a little
I
test
see.
anxiety that interferes
Just a
with
little.
your performance. But that's basically you got your whole bachelor's degree in like less than half a year, where most
Yeah.
people take four, right?
Yeah, it was very I was very productive and it worked out really well. I was grateful that Capella had that program.
Take us a bit to you're about to sleep or you are deciding, okay, active imagination time. I mean, how do you immerse yourself? How do you do it? Take us on a little journey through this.
Okay, say I'm just trying to go to sleep. And listening to a book's not working. So I will create a future scenario. Say it is me done with college, finally out in the world, able to help others. I will fully immerse myself in that life. I will imagine what my children are doing at that time. I'll imagine where my husband and I are, our dogs, that kind of thing. I will fully create a story and that will kind of lull me to sleep. I'll not even realize, you know, I
When
can,
you fall asleep.
yeah, it's kind of like counting sheep for other people. That doesn't,
But it sounds like there's an emotional component, as you're creating some kind of imagery for yourself that's very positive. If you feel free, you feel accomplished, you feel good, you feel happy, successful, all these positive things, and that kind of pushes out any tension and anxiety. You relax, you're really enjoying it. Just it's like and then you fall asleep happy.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I think because of my neurodivergence, I'm able to do that easier. I'm able to distract myself with this vivid world that I've created. And I spoke about audiobooks, and I love reading. That's my favorite thing to do to pass time. Since I hit my head last year, it's been harder for me to physically read, but I can listen to an audiobook for hours
Mhm.
and I can see the entire world that the author has created. Um, and if I ask some of my friends who are not neurodivergent, they don't like to read because, especially fantasy or nonfiction, because they can't visualize what's going on. They would rather read history books, something that's real, something that's happened. They like documentary type stuff, and I'm more into like I'll follow along with that world just perfectly fine.
Sam, you said that your children have been diagnosed with uh, on the spectrum. Do they share similar experiences, or how are their experiences, different in any way, similar and or different?
Yeah, my oldest daughter, she has ADHD. She was diagnosed around 10 years old, which, as counselors, you guys know that that age for girls is already hard. They have a lot of changes, and she was getting angry. We were concerned that there was something going on with her. When we went to the therapist and they told us that she had ADHD, it was a relief for me because not that
Mhm.
I didn't know I had it at the time, but I knew it wasn't something that was uncontrollable in a way. Not that other conditions aren't controllable, but like this was something that I knew I could handle. My brother had been diagnosed with ADHD, so I knew how to help. For her, it shows up in impulsivity. She's extremely impulsive. She has a lot of difficulty with tasks. So, like cleaning her room, that is not something she can do. Even if she breaks it down one task at a time, it's very difficult. Procrastination is a big thing for her. Um, and that is the only diagnosis that she has is ADHD. If we talk about my younger daughter, she has been diagnosed with OCD. She's been diagnosed with ADHD, and there's the possibility of autism. She is more rigid. She's very routined. She gets a lot of anxiety if her routines are not followed. Um, she even cannot be in her room if her room is too messy. Say a friend came over and they had a ton of fun in that room, but now she's left with the mess to clean up. Well, it's too disorganized. She can't
Mhm.
clean it. So I will go in there, I will help her. It's even been 11 o'clock at night before where she says, Mom, I can't sleep in my room. It's too dirty. She's in her bed, the room is dark, but she knows that everything is out of place.
Wow, wow, interesting,
For those
interesting.
of us who are listening, watching, who do not know the meaning of OCD, could you just tell us
Oh,
OCD
yes, obsessive compulsive disorder.
or
So
compulsive disorder?
she's,
There's another, yes, another thing that comes to mind, and it's just a thought. Sometimes I believe those things are too speedily medicalized or placed in a category of something. Have you had a reflection on this, you're a graduate student? I mean, have you looked upon this medicalization of every behavior? Is that necessary? Does it help?
yeah, I know what you mean because somebody who has autism or someone who has ADHD, you're going to be compulsive with some things, you're going to be rigid with some things, and you're also going to be obsessive, right? I am easily obsessive over things, and so I got the OCD diagnosis. And for me, it's more like this came with everything else. It's not, And in addition, it's more a way to explain some of the symptoms that I have because
Okay.
of ADHD or my ASD.
Mhm.
Well,
But what are
before
the
you're calling
positives
these things,
about your daughters? I mean, one doesn't actually remember, but there are certain things that you find extremely wonderful about them, apart from they being your daughters, but there's some creative activity. Something in them is beautiful.
My oldest has the ability to see the world in the most positive way. Like it is, and a lot has happened to her in her 17 years, but she is truly a very positive and kind person. She would help anybody that she could. And my youngest, I think for her at this point, it's more of a protection. She uses it to protect herself from things that she doesn't like or she doesn't agree with. She's heavy into masking right now. She'll go to school and be the fun, bubbly 11-year-old girl with all of her friends, and then she'll come home very dysregulated, meaning that, she needs time alone. She can't talk to anybody right now because she's cranky. She doesn't need a nap. She just needs to go to her room for 30 minutes, which is her safe space,
Yeah.
and she's good. And then she's coming back down and she's our very inquisitive. That's the best thing about her is she's the most inquisitive kid. At 4 years old, she wanted to know what the brain did. So we were
Wow.
on YouTube looking up, what does the brain do and how does it work?
Are you going to teach them active imagination?
They use active imagination. We were talking about it the other day because they were excited about me coming on here and we were talking about it and they do use it, but I think the younger generations use it less because they have these things, unfortunately. And they tend to, I think that this kind of dampens the use of active imagination in our younger generations.
Yeah. Because it's a kind of inside look. It's a look inside a picture. And every time you image or you visualize, it has been said that it impacts every picture you create, everything you see. It shifts your brain chemistry. And one gentleman thought that as soon as it shifted and your brain chemistry, that went into the bloodstream and impacted your mood. And that is, if you have wonderful images and wonderful pictures, you seem to have a very beautiful mood, very beautiful. But is it a case where they're even finding that your heart rate, your heart rate is calmed, your sense? Do you find it creates a certain calm for you after you through with your active imagination exercises?
Definitely, because like when I was a kid, it provided me safety. It provided me a way to, I don't want to say escape, because I just adapted the world around me in my mind. I went into my mind and it provided safety. So I could see in that moment, especially. And then when I'm lulling myself to sleep by using active imagination, of course, it's lowering my heart rate, it's calming my anxiety, all of those things.
Mhm. Wonderful, wonderful. Because you're speaking with us, and I find you are clear, sort of flow wonderfully. You may be divergent, but that's beautiful to me. I think I don't know, I find you, well, probably I should say quite a normal person. You're a thinker, you are deep, you can reflect on the things and remember things. You can draw comparisons. You can look at your daughters, look into their levels of compassion, their sense of, their sort of inner well-being. And I think, I don't know if that is neurodivergent, probably we all are. What do you think?
Well, when I received my diagnosis, the psychologist told me that the reason he chose to give me the diagnosis of autism instead of complex PTSD
Okay.
was my extreme sensory issues. So here's the downside. My Pepperdine classes are all on, the West Coast. So they're a Pacific time frame. Sometimes the classes start at 10 p.m. My brain is done at like 6. It's had enough stimulation. It can't handle more, but I have to. I have to do that because that's when my classes are available. So say my husband comes in the house, he's a farmer too. He comes in the house at 10 o'clock at night and he's, warming up his dinner. I cannot handle that. I can't handle the movement. I can't handle the noise. I will have to put on loop earplugs, which I don't know if you're aware of what those are, but
Yes, yes, yes.
I love them. I put those in and then I put noise canceling headphones on so that I don't have to hear the noise he's making. I turn my back to him so I can't see what he's doing. And then I'm able to focus on what I was doing in the first place. Um, I have adapted because I didn't have a diagnosis. I believe I adapted through life. I learned how to cope. And they say when women become mothers and their life becomes stressful, that's typically why they don't get diagnosed if they're neurodivergent until later. Um, and like I mentioned, the thought of CPTSD, there's trauma there too. So you have to look at all of that. Did the trauma cause me to normalize myself? Did it cause me to adapt more than other neurodivergent people would have?
Sam, you mentioned something earlier around masking, and that's a fairly new concept related to neurodivergence, that individuals that uh, possess neurodivergence use masks, different masks in different situations. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think it goes along with me saying that I'm a chameleon. I can adapt to any situation because I can throw on a mask and be the version that you need me to be. If I need to be the mom, I can be the mom. If I need to be the wife, I can be the wife, daughter, whatever it is. And then like now, I wouldn't say that I'm masking, but there is a form of a mask because this is my professional side. People have a professional and an unprofessional side. I think it's similar to that. But when you mask every day growing up and you don't realize that that's what you're doing, you think that this is your authentic self. I am very different than who I was 20 years ago in school. I don't just go along with what others want to do. I do my own thing and I don't apologize for it anymore. If I don't want to go to, my friend's house because there's going to be like 15 people there and I just social battery is not going to deal with that, I won't. And I'm also a very smiley person. And I think that that is something that also was an adaptation that I made because my
Mhm.
youngest, her and I have a very similar, like who she is who I am on the inside. She's not a very smiley person. She's just a very like thoughtful person. And she got told to smile the other day and she kind of turned and looked at me. And I'm like, well, it's okay, Grace. You need to be you. If you don't feel like smiling, you don't need to smile. It's okay. But that's what you'll hear is like you need to smile more. You need to hug, you need to give a kiss goodbye. Those are not things that I really want to do. I don't want to hug everybody goodbye. But that's what my culture is. My culture is
Are
very,
you being asked to conform?
yes. And so as a
Oh,
child, I did. I adapted and I conformed to what was needed and what was socially acceptable for a girl my age. Um, And I feel like that's what helps create this mask that we have. Not all neurodivergent people have it, but there's a book called Unmasking Autism. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but I am looking forward to it. I've seen lots of people say that unmasking is really like they're peeling the mask off their face. It's very, very painful. Uh,
Mm.
and you realize when you unmask that some of these people that have always been around you and love you for who you have been may not accept the person that you are without the mask. And that's a
Mm.
very hard thing.
Well, so could we use active imagination to say, use your active imagination and imagine yourself in the future living without any mask, living as the real you, and what would it be like? Maybe it'd be wonderful, beautiful, fantastic. What can you kind of imagine? What would you be like without the mask, without any mask, as the real you? What does that look like?
I think that that would be a great therapeutic tool to use with someone who is neurodivergent, who would like to be more authentic. Um,
Mhm.
because it's a safe space for them to sit with you and to work through what they could be like or what they are like on the inside. They've adapted for so long, they've used this mask forever. And some of them just don't know who they are anymore. And I think that I'm on a journey to find who I am, to find how I fit in this world. And I've always been very empathetic. That was looked at as a weakness. So I'm coming back into my empathy and trying to allow myself to feel the empathy, but not feel like it's my problem to fix. That's the other thing is I
I'm
really
on a journey. I'm on a journey to find out who I am. This is so beautiful. I mean, this is lovely to hear you say that. My last question is more probably an imagination one, and it is you spoke about the inside. What's on your inside?
that's a very good question. I like I said, I was diagnosed with autism just in May, and I have been very dedicated to my schoolwork since, before. Um, I have not taken the time to fully look inside, but when I look at my daughters, I can see myself in them. I have always been classified as an extrovert. I really believe I'm an introvert. I believe I'm an introvert in my soul. I just want to stay home with a book and my dogs and my family, but not all the time. So sometimes I just want to be alone. Um, that's how I see my inside. I see my inside. My calmest space is honestly outside in my hammock reading a book. That's my inside.
Wow.
Sam, as we get to the uh, top of the hour here, do you have any recommendations for individuals that are either neurodivergent and or just the use of active imagination to uh, better their lives?
Honestly, the thing that I would say is to embrace your neurodivergence. Don't let the things that other people see as wrong or not acceptable define you. If I were to let people define me, I would not currently be in two master's programs, applying for a PhD with a 4.0. I wouldn't be in college. I would still be the stay-at-home mom who got pregnant at 20 and got married. That's who I would be still if I let
Mhm.
other people other people's viewpoints of my personality and who I am keep me stuck. That's who I would be.
Great, great.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us today with this discussion. Thank you to Stein and David. And we want to wish you all a very active imagination. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good to see you all.